Welcome back, everyone, to Blue Collar Startup, the podcast where hard work meets big ideas. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Nelson. D is out again this week. I know if you listened to last week's episode with Jason and Stacy Spector from over at Catamount Consulting, D was not with us for that either, but he's getting a little family time in, hopefully, here and not working as much as he normally does, but he'll be back on the next episode. Before we get started, though, of course, got to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to do this podcast, or we would not be able to take some of the money that these guys give us and donate it back to some of our local institutions, Hudson Valley Community College and the BOCES programs as well, helping kids with tuition and tools. So, just real quick shout out to People's, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Michael's Group, Catamount Consulting. Of course, Derek's team over at Daigle Cleaning Systems that help him free up time to do the podcast. And then, of course, our team over at Five Towers Media that helps us with the website and podcast production and all the things that they do. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your support. And excited about today's conversation. As I was just saying to our guest, that I was doing a little research beforehand, and they've got quite the operation. Covering over in the state of Washington, over on the West Coast here. We're about as far away from each other as we can be here with us on the East Coast. So let me introduce you to DT. DT, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Michael.
Absolutely, man. I was wondering, DT, how long have you guys been in business?
2011.
2011. All right, because you look young. Maybe I'm just really old, but you look young, man. I was like, wow.
It's the grease. It keeps me from aging. That's the secret to life.
So DT, if you don't mind for our listeners, just kind of give them a rundown of who you are and what you guys do.
Yeah, so DT, I started West Coast Renewables. That's the new name. It was West Coast Grease Traps back in 2011 to 2024. We started out just doing grease traps, no other services. We added drain cleaning, mid-teens, and then 21 we added plumbing, 24 we added used cooking oil collection. So now we are pretty much a full stop shop for all commercial kitchens.
Yeah, it's I'm curious, the renewables. Help me understand what renewables, how that's connected to what you guys do. Because it's funny, because when I first saw the communications coming in, I was like, oh, renewables, huh? I was like, is this like a wind farm or something like that? Like I was thinking it was like in renewable energy sector. And then Derek started telling me, I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, but I didn't understand the connection. So help me.
Yeah. So grease trap waste, anywhere from about 2 to 5% of it can be collected for brown grease, and that can be used as bunker fuel for the oceanic cargo ships. Be used for heating as well. Yeah. So we can collect about up to, it would have to be heavy oil to get 5%, but on average around 2 to 3% of it can be collected for brown grease. And then the used cooking oil gets collected as feedstock. And then we sell that off to biodiesel manufacturers. So we help support renewable biodiesel plants.
Yeah, yeah. And I was familiar with the cooking oil, but I didn't realize that you were able to extract the grease out of the wastewater and reuse that as well. That's pretty wild.
So we're working on getting a little bit more of that going, but yeah, for right now it's about 2 to 5% if we're lucky.
That's cool though, man.
Yeah.
Are you able to sell that stuff to these customers?
Gosh. So both those are able to get sold off.
Man, I'll tell you, Derek and I had this conversation just the other day. I am always fascinated by industries like yours from a business model standpoint that you're able to do. Like, I use the example of like the tree guys. I'm like, I pay the tree guy to come and cut the tree down. But then to get rid of the tree, I got to pay him to get rid of the tree. But then he gets to sell that tree to somebody else.
Yeah.
The wood chips to somebody else. I'm like, that's a brilliant business model. And I love seeing that kind of stuff, man.
Any way we can try to make a buck. It's getting expensive over here. So we have to haul our waste about 10 hours round trip. Yeah. So to offset that we had to increase our prices for pumping, but, without going like crazy high, because we're about 30 to 40% higher than the national average, because of our area and the issues we have with disposal up here. Yeah. So without going crazy overboard, we're trying to figure out other revenue streams, and that's where selling the cooking oil as feedstock and then collecting as much brown grease as possible from trap waste. Because
Yeah.
cooking oil is a free service. We only make money when we sell the products. Where
Yep.
grease traps, we make money pumping it and then very little on the back end for selling brown grease, but
Yeah.
it's there.
But still, I mean, again, I think it's a great practice. I mean, your clients got to get rid of it no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So they're just happy it's gone. And then to be able to offset some of your other overhead with that stuff is amazing.
Yeah. It's
Good
a work in
stuff.
progress.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you said 2011 you guys started.
Correct.
And uh, give me an idea, how did you get into the business?
It I hate to say it kind of fell into my lap, but it kind of fell into my lap. So I was in another business that was doing different types of pumping, more environmental services than food waste. And a biodiesel company came up, asked us if we could pump a couple grease traps for them. And we were like, yeah, God, grease traps stink. Nobody wants to do them. Um, so being the young guy, I was 24, 25 at that time in the business. I got dealt the grease trap card. And so, but one of the things I really did like about the grease trap was the chefs. They were my kind of people.
Okay.
Drunks, druggies, loose lipped. I could walk into the kitchen and talk to them like I've known them for 20 years. So
Yeah.
I ended up falling in love with it. When we split from that company, I ended up just taking on about 20 accounts from there and grew it into what it is today. So started with a rigid shop vac from Home Depot, mounted to a 55-gallon drum, and I'd pick that up, throw it in the bed of a little Ford Ranger and drive around. And then once I started getting a little bit of money and a little more work, I took a 300-gallon propane tank and built my first pump truck with it. So everything from a scrapyard for the first pump truck I built.
I'll tell you, these are the kind of stories, DT, that I love our audience to hear. A guy with a pickup truck and just the willing to work hard
Yeah,
and do what you got to do and turn it into what seems like, at least from what I've seen so far, it looks like you got a real good business on your hands, man.
yeah.
So
Thank you.
we call that the case study for
Yeah,
all the blue collar startups out there, man. It's you don't have to have a 50-year-old business or be third generation. You don't have to have millions of dollars to have a nice business. So
yeah.
good stuff, man. What you said you built the pump yourself?
So I found a pump while I was getting the propane tank. It was a pump sitting on a 50s era truck.
Yeah,
And so we ended up pulling the pump off, put a new motor on it, and the pump fired up. It's a 1934 or 35 Massport vacuum pump.
that's amazing.
Back then they were built to last. So all we had
Yeah,
to do was just add some oil to it and it fired right up. The parts on it were aircraft grade aluminum, so they weren't going anywhere. So that worked for about 3 years until the truck blew up, and then built another one out of a propane tank and just kept going. Yeah.
yeah. The pump outlasted the truck, huh?
Oh yeah.
That's funny. Is the pump still going?
It's sitting in my collection. I'm going to end up building it into some sort of showpiece,
Some sort
once I
of
get the
showpiece.
office built out. Yeah, it'll be a
Yeah.
staple.
What do you think in those early years? So you've been 2011, so that's what 14 years.
Yep.
What do you think some of your biggest challenges were in the early part of your business?
There's a lot of challenges. Getting work was tricky. So we're a very niche industry. So it was hard. Being small was the other issue. One of the benefits about Seattle, where I focused my business on, was the neighborhoods in Seattle do not like national companies. They want local mom and pop. Like they won't even allow McDonald's into some of these neighborhoods. So it's a pretty tight community for how big the city is. So
Yeah.
that was one of the benefits I had. I was pretty much the only local grease trap pumper born and raised in Seattle that wasn't owned by a national outfit.
Mm.
So I was able to kind of get that going. And then finding employees was tough. There was a lot of resentment from spouses, that's not a real business. That's not a real company. You need to go find somewhere that's real. So it was hard to overcome those in the beginning. But once we started getting one, two employees, it made it a little easier for new guys to come on.
Yeah.
We're sitting at about 24 employees right now. So
Nice.
yeah.
And what about now? What do the challenges look like for you now?
Disposal is our biggest challenge. We're trying to figure out how to build some sort of disposal system in Sumner where we're based. And so then we can limit our disposal costs, lower our carbon footprint from hauling 10 hours round trip.
Yeah.
So mainly that's our biggest thing right now. And one of the things I didn't think about when I changed the name, we're a brand new company now. So the banks
Um,
see us as just breaking a year old, even though we've got 13 years as the other company. They see this new EIN number and it's a brand new. So I would say if you're changing the name of your company, make sure you do all the due diligences that you need to do to make sure you don't get screwed over. So
yeah. Is that because like whether it's, looking for trade lines or looking for credit or
yeah.
trying to establish things like that, they give you a hard time on that?
Yeah, they want 2 years in business. And it's like, well, I've got 14, but two different names. And so they want to use the current name, even though all of our accounts are the same, employees are the same, trucks. Yeah, they're just being real picky about it. So
Yeah.
definitely think before you do, I guess.
I guess, yeah, it's almost like they get paid to be picky, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, uh, in the beginning, you're talking about with the hiring new employees and the first couple. I, had you ever hired employees before?
Before my first couple?
Yeah, before those for like for this business, like did you like in your prior career, did you ever work on the hiring employee side or
No, that
when
was all new to me.
that was all new?
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you? Like what did you just run an ad and they showed up and you're like,
Yeah. Craigslist back then. And I mean, it was if you showed up to an interview and you kind of had your stuff together, you were
yeah.
hired. That was kind of it. I didn't have a lot of options back then. And so that was where, if you just showed up, you had a job, which didn't really represent me to the fullest. But once I got the one guy to show up, it was easier to get another guy to show up and
Mhm.
then move on from there.
And how has that hiring process changed for you over the years?
Now we don't even have to run ads. My team of guys, they are bringing in and recruiting from other industries.
Hmm.
We've built a really tight community. I've wanted it this type for the longest time, and it took a long time to get here. I'd say late 23 is when we really started changing our core structure and building a team that pushes each other to its fullest.
Hmm.
Nobody can slack. They push each other hard. So, I mean, hell, if you call out sick, you're gonna get shit for that. It's not gonna be easy. So they make each other, accountability is key. And so we start really early, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow.
So it's easy for somebody to just roll over and say, yeah, I don't want to come in today. But the team we got now has been great.
When now you start that early because that you got to get to the restaurants before they're opening and
Yeah,
yeah,
in and out before the restaurants really open. So yeah,
yeah. Do you you said that you changed your core structure. I'd like to unpack that a little bit if we can.
yeah.
When you say you changed the core structure, like what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, in the beginning, like I was saying, it was hard for me to find really talented workers. It was just show up. So it was really like I built the business off of my reputation, and trying to find people to uphold my expectations was a huge challenge. So it took about 10 years for me to get guys that would actually do what I needed them to do and showcase how I wanted my business to, look on the outside. And
Hmm.
so when I brought in a couple of the guys, they really saw my vision and wanted to do that. I mean, one of the guys, Evan, we had the longest interview I've ever had with anybody. And it was about an hour and a half long interview. And one of the questions he asked me was, what was my record? How many grease traps could I pump in one shift? And I told him, and in the interview, he looked me in the face and said, I'm going to beat your record. And I said, all right, that's what I want. So, he did beat my record. So, it's great. The guys are really pushing each other. They're pushing themselves. I would find it hard to find somebody that could beat our team right now in this industry.
And do you find that like when you made those changes, were you looking to instill like a competitive environment, like a friendly competitive environment,
Yeah.
obviously not a cutthroat one, but like to get guys that were like, they want to be better than they were yesterday. They're trying to beat their buddies, so to speak, so they can
Yeah.
talk trash, right? Like that's why.
Yeah. I'm a big competitive person. I love, I think that's what drives and pushes people to be better is the competitive nature.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100%, yeah, competitive all the way.
Were you a high school or college sports guy?
Nope. I wrestled when I was younger. I blew out both my shoulders, so my sport days were done about junior high.
Yeah.
So
That's funny. The episode we just recorded on Tuesday, we were talking about wrestling a lot, actually.
yeah,
And just, like wrestlers, even if they only did a couple years of wrestling, they always seem to have a competitiveness and like a self-assuredness. I don't know what it is about
yeah.
wrestling, but
Well, wrestling was great because there's only one person to blame, and it was yourself.
yeah.
I didn't thrive in team sports because I didn't like relying on other people.
Hmm.
So wrestling was great because it was only me.
Yeah.
If I won, I won. If I lost, I had to go back and reflect on myself and see why I lost. So I think that really helps a person become a good leader is, single sports where you can only blame yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious from a sales and marketing standpoint, because that's, for startups in the trades especially, that's always we'll say a weak spot for a lot of guys and girls, right?
Mhm.
Because they're carpenters, they're welders, they're good at their trade, but they're not necessarily good at the business development side and bringing in new business. And it's always a question we get.
Yeah.
What when you were, I know you said when you first started, like you were going out and calling on accounts. As you started to grow, how did that strategy adjust for you? Did you hire a salesperson, or were you still pounding the pavement and trying to get accounts?
Both. So 16, 17 is when I hired my first salesman. Um, and it was really just door to door.
Mm.
We didn't really have a social media presence back then. It's very hard to figure out how to target this industry. So just walking into a restaurant was really the only way we saw fit, the best money per dollar spent. So going in, hitting as many restaurants in a day as possible was kind of our marketing sales thing. And then our trucks, they're big billboards driving down the road.
Yeah.
So,
You got them all lettered up.
oh yeah. And then they stink to high heavens when they're pumping. So it draws attention, it's like, what is that godforsaken smell? It makes people look. So
Yeah. How do you get that out of your clothes when you got to go home at night?
just wash them.
You just want
Yeah.
you go.
It's one of those things you get used to the smell.
Yeah.
Some of our guys claim to be nose blind to it, but it stinks. It's decaying food organics, so it's not good. But
Yeah. We're on a farm out here. I got a bunch of pigs, and I always hear that pig farmers smell bad, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, I can't smell anything.
yeah,
Maybe I'm
I
just nose blind.
right.
Um, and now you guys are, I mean, from what I saw on your website, it looks like you're covering like almost the whole state of Washington. Is that? I mean,
Yeah,
you got
so
a
we're
big
doing the whole
footprint.
state of Washington. We're picking up Oregon right now, and then we're also going to be picking up Idaho.
Wow, that's a big footprint.
Yeah, so we're trying to take over the entire Northwest. We're not sure how fast we want to get to California because I mean, we're not much different than California for regulations, but they have a little bit more strict regulations. So
Yeah.
we're debating on California for right now. Um, but yeah, the whole Northwest for the most part.
Keep growing and going. And how are you set up? Do you set up like hubs
So
or?
right now we're just running out of our corporate location in Sumner. It's pretty much dead smack between Tacoma and Seattle.
Yeah.
So we're about 3 hours north of Portland, and then we're right on I-90. So that's the main east to west corridor.
Yep.
So we're about 5 hours from Spokane, which is the border city to Idaho. So for right now, until we build up a big enough account base, we're
Yeah.
just gonna run out of here. We'll put the guys in hotels,
Okay.
build the route up over there, and then yeah, we'll
Yeah,
just
that's what I was going to ask. Is that going all the way east like that? Where like how would you? I mean, because that could be a pretty lengthy drive from.
yeah. And then we got DOT regulations, so we can only drive for so much hours in a day. So when the guys get over there, they might be able to get one or two stops done and then have to park it for the night. But once we get I'd say a solid week or more of accounts in with certain areas when we'll start looking at adding in a um, satellite location.
Yeah. And how do you look to set up your routes? So from like a route density standpoint, are you like do you get an initial account and then build around it or
Yeah, for the most part. So it's easier to add on. So we just had a couple meetings last week or the week before with some large franchises,
Mhm,
and they got about 200 locations, and they were concerned on how we can do that. And it's really just adds density to our existing routes.
mhm,
But for like Oregon, we picked up a dozen or so gas stations. And so we'll go down there and then our sales team will try to market that area. Tyler will probably try to run some campaigns on social media to target that region. But for the
okay.
most part, we just want to try to densify everywhere we are.
Yeah, get every single location you can on
Yeah.
that route. Yeah. Um, but so let's just talk about the clients themselves, right? So
Mhm.
the grease traps. I mean, why do they need it done?
Kind of like a septic system. So you have a continuous flowing system in your kitchen or out in the parking lot. And then if grease builds up, it discharges the grease trap and goes into the sewer city line. And then it clogs up the sewer pipes. And then the sewer treatment plants have been increasing their filtration process, which grease is the worst thing for the filter system. So then it causes the sewer plants to have backups and overflow. So the cities and municipalities have been really increasing regulations on it. So like right now, the majority of the state is at a 25% capacity in a grease trap. So a small indoor grease trap that's 25 to 50 gallons, you're only looking at like 4 inches of waste
Hmm.
to be out of compliance. So it just needs to get pumped. I mean, we have contracts that are every week, 2 weeks, monthly, and quarterly. So everything from there is regulated and keep the like our motto, we keep your kitchen flowing.
Keep your
With the grease trap as being the discharge for the entire kitchen, if it backs up, clogs up, the kitchen floods. So without the grease trap being cleaned, the kitchen can't operate properly.
like are the restaurants liable? So if something happens, like do they get in trouble with the city?
Yeah. So if the city comes out and checks the sewer main and they'll start running cameras up the side sewers to see which restaurants discharging grease into the city sewer lines. And so then they'll go in and increase the frequency for the grease trap client. So if it's discharging too much grease, the city will jet the lines. I don't know for sure if they put the bill on the city or if it goes to the restaurant, but I'm sure after a couple times it'll go to the restaurant. So then they'll go to the restaurant, say, what are your best management practices? Fog agreement, so fats, oils, and grease, and then go from there. But like the city of Tacoma, it's mandated every 30 days to get an interior grease trap pumped out and then quarterly for the exteriors. And then if you can properly show the city that you can self clean your grease trap,
Yeah.
then you can go quarterly professionally. But nothing's really allowed to go past quarterly services in the city.
It's interesting. I mean, I grew up in restaurants. I owned a bar and restaurant for a number of years, and I never even knew that this was a thing.
And that's part of the problem is restaurant owners aren't educated on a grease trap. They don't understand that that's part of their business is to make sure they can flow out, right?
Mhm.
So the biggest thing they're worried about is the consumables, your foods, your liquids, products, papers. The grease traps never anybody's thought process. So one of the things we've tried doing, and it's pretty tough, is to get in front of a restaurant from opening the doors.
Mhm.
So, hey, don't forget about your grease trap, or do you even know if you have a grease trap, right? We've come up to restaurants that haven't had a grease trap pumped in many years. It's in the basement under floorboards. And then they just start smelling something. And sure enough, it's been overflowing for months. And
Yeah.
so, how to educate the restaurant owners, the property managers that manage like strip malls, to say, hey, these grease traps need to get serviced, and go from there.
Yeah. And you mentioned the jets, right? So I know when you say you start with a pickup truck and a shop vac. Now
Yeah.
you've got these high pressure jet systems that you use. If I'm saying,
Vacuum trucks. Yeah.
yeah. How did the change in technology for you as a company, like how did that come about?
Uh, necessities. So with the vacuum system, the shop vac, we still run a system similar to what I built in the beginning. It's our portable unit. So like if we can't get a truck fairly close to the building, then we have to run a portable system. So, or if it's inside the mall, pretty much at least around here, the malls have their own grease traps inside each little storefront. So we
Hmm.
got to push a barrel around the entire mall system. And then, but the vacuum pumps, I mean, we've got two different styles. We've got a vane pump and a blower pump. And so we're testing out which one we like better for grease because we're thick. We're like peanut butter. So pulling thick stuff is tough on the pumps.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. The only experience I personally have with dealing with grease like that is because my wife was pouring too much bacon grease down the drain, and we had to have the septic company come out and pull
Yep.
all manner of yuckiness out of the line. But
There's been talks in the cities or in the state on enforcing residentials and possibly looking at putting grease traps on residential. I mean, they're the worst contributor
I bet.
to the sewer system. I mean, I know what not to dump down the drain and I still do it, but I can pump my own stuff and clean my own lines. So, it'll be beneficial for everybody if it does happen that way.
Yeah,
So, I mean, hell, even like corporate locations, if you bring in food from home, you're no
yeah.
longer allowed to wash your dishes at the office complex. You got to take it home dirty.
Really
Yeah. So they're not allowing anybody to bring excess waste to the office complexes.
interesting. I mean, if they're going to get, the landlord's going to get in trouble, they're going to put pressure on the
Yep.
tenants, right? And the tenants got to put pressure on the people in the building. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, do you see like any big changes in technology or trends coming down the pike for your industry? I mean, like for us and a lot of industries, we're seeing just crazy changes, whether it be because of AI or new technologies that are coming out. Do you see anything coming down the pike for you guys?
Not for grease traps. Grease traps is going to be pretty much, manpower the whole time.
Yeah,
They might make some ways, things easier for us, but it'll never be like computer operated. It at least not in the foreseeable future. It's going to be manpower only. Or you could use cooking oil. Yeah, they've got filtration systems in restaurants and stuff. Where we use bins and the customer has to dump the oil in the bin. So
yep.
there's some changes in that industry that have been happening the last few years, but for grease traps, nah, it's going to be pretty consistent.
Can be pretty consistent. That's, I feel like that's a pretty reoccurring theme right now for pretty much anything blue collar is that
Yeah,
it's not going anywhere and the demand for work is only going to be on the increase.
that's right.
Any thoughts on franchising and taking it across the country?
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I don't know. That just goes to show like how do I get a franchisor to believe in my product and represent us the best way. My wife and I own a franchise juice bar, and
Nice.
it's very challenging for me to run it the franchisor's way. As somebody that built their own business, I want to see other ways to do things, and my wife wants to do other ways too. So it's a challenge, which has made me realize I don't know if I want to franchise. I'd rather just open up a satellite location in every state west of Denver. So yeah, that's my end goal.
You going down to Vegas?
Huh?
I said you going down to Vegas?
Yeah. Vegas would be good.
I mean, I have to assume there's a lot of opportunity there, man.
Yeah. Every time we go there, we try to, I think the last time summer we went, we were actually watching some pumpers pump out the grease traps for I think it was MGM. So that
Mhm.
was fun. It was a show though. I mean, they came prepared, set up. So that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, that was gonna be one of the questions I asked is like I again because I had never even really heard of this industry and so I never really noticed any companies out there doing it. are there a lot of people in that space, or like, do you have a lot of competition, or is it pretty scarce?
So Washington's a little different than a lot of the rest of the country. So most states can mix septic and grease together and no issues. Washington, they're pretty anal about how much grease can be mixed with septic. It's roughly 30%. And then they don't want, if you're dumping grease waste and you have a septic truck, they don't want your septic in the grease going to the, you know, plants that process the grease.
Mm,
So there's a little more of a challenge in our state for the septic guys to get into it, but across the country, everybody else can pretty much mix the stuff for the most part. They're probably, I've seen crackdowns on it, but for right now, we've got 4 competitors roughly in the area that strictly do grease waste. So, we have some septic companies that do it, but we don't really consider the septic guys a competitor.
yeah.
So,
Um, and so I wanted to ask about adding like the plumbing services and other those things, right? Like obviously you're already in the kitchens, you're already kind of dealing with some of those systems already. What was the point of where you're like, we're going to start doing commercial plumbing here in these kitchens?
so we started with drain cleaning just because when we're there pumping the grease trap, the best way to do it is when you're pulling all the waste back, you dump it back into the grease trap. So then we can just collect it as we go.
Hmm.
So we started offering that service, and then I just kept getting frustrated when I'd go to a restaurant and the grease trap would be installed backwards. Um, so I was like, God dang, we could come in and solve that problem real fast. And so that's what we ended up started with was just installing grease traps. And then my company built out my wife's juice bar. So we kind of opened up the door for, full kitchen build outs and whatnot. But we're trying to scale that back. I don't know if I really want to be in the build out kitchen industry. It's a little time consuming.
Yeah,
So we're kind of just focusing on anything from a leaky sink to replacing fixtures, more of a maintenance plumbing than
yeah,
full out plumbing right now.
yeah,
We install about half a dozen grease traps a month right now or replace. And so, that's kind of where we want to focus on is being the grease trap one stop. We know what we're doing. You don't need to call
yeah,
anybody else.
yeah. And really, like you said, kind of focusing on that maintenance side.
Yeah.
And do you model, are you per occurrence, or you got like a subscription model, or how does that work for you guys?
The plumbing has a subscription and then grease trap is just on a frequency. So everybody's on so we don't do contracts, we do service agreements. Makes the restaurants feel more comfortable.
Hmm.
So, it's if we can't seem to do your restaurant or you have issues with us and we can't seem to meet eye to eye, then, obviously we're not the right service provider for you. I don't want somebody to ever feel like they got to be with us because of a contract. I
Yeah,
want my customers to be with us because they trust us and they believe in us and we do such a superior job that there's no reason for them to go anywhere else. And that's kind of what we've always based our model off of. So we'll do hey, we got you at this price for this X amount of frequency. And then, everybody's happy and they can
yeah.
fire us anytime they want.
Yeah, we take the same approach actually with our business. It's I'd rather that you stayed with us because we do great work and you're happy with it rather than being held to a contract. Like, who wants to have that conversation, right?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I see some of these contracts our competitors do, and it's just ludicrous. Well, customer the other day we took from a competitor was just peeved. They did a 3-year or 6-year contract and they made her pay 3 years up front. And then she was supposed to get serviced every 60 days, I believe, and one service a year or
Yeah,
in 3 years. So she paid for, I don't know, 12 services and only got one.
and got one.
Yeah. And I'm
That's
like, God, that's just brutal. Why would you do that? So,
yeah. I don't know. I see the same thing in my industry as well. And contracts in and of themselves, they're only as good as the lawyer that you've got that's going to help you enforce them, right? So it's
yeah.
and the relationship that you end up having with that person after you have to hold them to a contract to keep them
Yeah.
from breaking up with you, right? Like,
And then, shit happens all the time. So it's like, why would you want to put your business in jeopardy not being able to uphold that contract? It's like,
yeah,
and then they drop the ball on communication, and that's where we really strive is our communication. Our customers love the fact that we don't have any AI operated to phone calls, no third party phone system. Everything comes to our office and gets dealt with by a live person that's trained by us.
And they like that. They react
Oh
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did a earlier this year. I thought it'd be nice because our phones ring constantly. So I did the press one operator kind of thing.
Yep.
And man, we got so much backlash for that. So that lasted about 2 weeks. And then we took that down. So yeah, they like it when we just pick up the phone.
I mean, I know I like it when someone picks up the phone. I hate having to go through menus
Yeah.
and that chatbot thing. That's a whole nother conversation. But I just, I don't you want the interaction with your customers to be with a real human or with a
Yeah.
prospective customer to be with a real person and not, you know,
Yeah. I prefer to do business face to face. And so might as well make my business face to face as much as possible.
yeah, love it.
Yeah.
What, so 24 employees, that obviously comes with how should I say it? It comes with the responsibility of not just managing those teams, but also all the stuff that comes around having employees, right? Like vacation time and sick time.
Mhm.
We're in New York, so we've got all sorts of wild stuff that we have to do to stay compliant just with the state, let alone with our employees. Do you like have an HR person? Are you doing it? Do you outsource it? Like, what do you do for your HR activities?
Yeah. HR is a tough one. We're I would probably be the first one to get fired if I had an HR person. Um, we're very loose-lipped, easygoing. Our trucks, when they're in vacuum, it's sucking, and when they're in offloading, it's blowing. So, when we're are in the yard, it's like, hey, go suck him off or go blow him real quick. We use
Yeah,
those sexual innuendos all the time. So it's kind of like we're not really PC.
yeah,
But as long as that's the mentality of the company. It's like, just if you get offended, just say something. Don't go crying to anybody about it, and then we'll work on it. And
yeah,
so HR, yeah, we sort of dabbled in HR a little bit. I wouldn't say we really go down that road though.
yeah,
So
yeah. So, how do you manage just keeping an eye on all the time off and vacations and leave and all that other stuff?
Google calendars. We got an office staff that handles a lot of that. So our operations manager will put it in the system, take the jobs off, move them to another guy. So it works the way we do it.
Hmm? Yeah, it must.
Yeah.
Seems like you're killing it, man.
I mean, I don't really have anything else to compare it to. So,
Yeah,
how we do it just seems to work.
yeah.
So,
No, they're
and then our payroll software keeps track of everything. So yeah, it's fairly user friendly based, I guess.
yeah.
But yeah.
What that was going to be the other question as far as like, managing the jobs and scheduling and those kinds of things. Do you integrate software for that or are you still Google Calendar or what is
No,
that?
we have 5 different programs we use. Um, Nothing is really designed for us.
Yeah.
We have to take other industries and kind of manipulate it to work for us or work as best as possible for us.
Hmm.
We've actually been in talks with some software development companies this year. So just was not expecting the $1 million price tag to build a software. That was a little of a holy cow.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you probably have somebody in the office do it with Chat GPT now. I hear
well,
you.
yeah, now, yeah, who knows if I even need to spend the money on it? I could probably just have AI do it for us here in the
Yeah,
next
right.
year. Um, but yeah, we use a scheduling routing software that it works. The hardest thing is having a software to reoccur the jobs at an X frequency at a certain time of the day.
Yeah.
There some of the bigger platforms won't do that. So we had to find a newer company that's willing to work with us and, allow us to do what we need to do.
Hmm. Um, that just made me think of two, a follow-up question I meant to ask before when we were talking about sales. What does your sales and marketing look like now? Like, do you still have
Um,
guys or girls out on the street going and open new accounts? I know Tyler's your guy that's kind of handling your marketing stuff.
yeah, so right now Tyler's focusing on building our content, our digital um fuck was it? social media.
Yeah.
This is why I'm not in charge of the social media.
Yeah.
So, and then Lance is our sales manager. He kind of does door to door cold calls, and then Van we have is our indoor salesman. Um, but he's actually been going out in the field a little bit to pick up because cold calling is hard to get past the gatekeepers. You know, it's very challenging. So door to door is still really the best way for us to grow our business. Um, but advertising seems to be going pretty good for us. You know, social media, we're running a commercial right now on YouTube and I think TikTok, which is all new. I don't even have a TikTok account, but you know, it's like, yeah, we're trying new things, you know, trying to figure out how to really saturate the area we're servicing when you
Mhm.
pull up a social media account to see our brand.
Yeah. 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 It's an interesting environment right now for sales and marketing,
Yeah.
and cold calling sucks. So you tell Van, I feel as my sales guy actually feels his pain because I got a new sales guy and
Yep.
it's his first time and he's been hammering the phones, every day. And I always equate it to being like getting your teeth kicked down your throat.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I personally hate cold calling. It's the most awkward thing. I'd
yeah,
rather just walk into a restaurant and just try to sell it that way. That was my forte. So yeah, I give it off to those guys cold calling. It's tough.
it's tough, man. It is a tough game for sure.
So
Uh, I know we're doing okay on time, I guess. But as you are looking towards the future of your company, obviously you're growing east. Uh, Sounds like you're interested in dominating west from Denver.
I
Uh,
will dominate.
I love it. Well, so that's going to be the question, right? Like, so from a mindset standpoint, and this is we just had this podcast where we were talking about mindset and how your view on things and perspective. Is that like you just tell yourself like, hey, this is what I'm going to do and go do it, or what does that look? Do you have a process that you follow for planning and goal setting, or?
No, I have a complex where I like to shoot from the hip and see where things land. You know, it doesn't always work. And so our CFO is pretty much my opposite. He wants everything figured out, budgeted, where I like to say, screw it, we'll figure it out, you know, and that's kind of how I've always ran. It's getting a lot more challenging the bigger we get to say, screw it, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
So I can see Jackson's point on a lot of this stuff is to where we need to make sure we're making money anywhere we go. You know,
Mhm.
instead of me just going, yeah, I think that makes sense. You know, he's actually broke down the numbers to the penny on everything we've got. So growth wise, he's helping control my issues of just wanting to blow up everywhere.
Yeah,
So, I
yeah.
mean, when I started it, I did West Coast for my name instead of Northwest because I thought within the first 5 years it wouldn't be that challenging to be in the entire West Coast.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Well,
14 years later, we're finally moving out of one state.
I
So
listen, that
more of a
successful
challenge than I thought.
entrepreneurs are always optimists, right? It's that there
Yeah.
is no we can't do it. It's always just how am I going to get this done, and we're going to go do it and
Yeah.
figure it out for that matter. Um, and just curious, at what point did you hire a CFO? Like, when did that become a thing where you're like, shit, I need someone to
So
manage
I've
it?
had a bookkeeper since 14 or 15. Which I didn't realize the difference between like a bookkeeper, CFO. You know, I've had a CPA and whatnot, but I was trying to figure out that one piece to the puzzle and I could never figure it out. It wasn't office manager, it wasn't operations manager, it wasn't that. And so once I think it was my lawyer that told me I needed a CFO. And so I started shopping and last year we went through two before Jackson came on. So last year was our first year having a CFO. I let go of our bookkeeper and then brought on the CFO position, which has been instrumental to the business. You know,
Yeah.
he really helped focus the company and move it in the right direction on the paper side of things. So
Mhm.
lightened up a lot of workload for me and headaches.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's you know, if you're like a lot of business owners, right? Like you're not a numbers guy, you're a
Yeah.
30,000 foot view guy, you're pushing forward, Um, and I mean, well, let me ask you this question to kind of help this conversation, but how many hours do you think you work in a week at this point?
I don't know. I've been asked that a lot. I don't
Yeah.
keep track. It's just I'll be in bed still working. So I don't know. It's just, I don't think if you want a successful business, there should be no time off. It should be always on the clock, always working, always trying to figure out how to grow your business. Your cell phone's always on. You're available to anybody at any time. So I think that's the biggest key feature as a business owner. If
Yeah.
you want to be successful, you need to be 24/7 available.
Got to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so with that CFO coming on, it's maybe not taking hours off your day, but allowing you to allocate them somewhere else, or
Yeah,
what
yeah,
was?
delegate off, certain task, allows me to really have the freedom to do what I want to do with the business, build up the social media with Tyler, figure out how to move into new areas. So, that's a huge one. I tried in 21. Unfortunately, a lot of things happened. And so we had to pull out of Eastern Washington. But I learned from that. And now I have a little bit more experience on what not to do. And so
Yeah.
it's easier for me to figure out without having to worry about that side of the business. So it allows me to be able to grow the company.
Yeah, not without worrying about if the invoices are getting
Yeah.
paid or if they're getting sent out and all that. Yeah.
That's always been an issue for the company is, you know, who's going to pay the bills? I put one person in charge of it, and then I start getting blown up by vendors saying, "Where the hell's our money at?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't do that part of the business. And so then I got to go back and try to figure out why things aren't getting done. And it's always been like, oh, I didn't know you wanted me to pay that. It's like, shit's got to get paid,
Yeah.
So that was a hard part for me to get over that hump. But yeah, Jackson's come in and he's really just taken the bull by the horns and ran with it. So,
Yeah.
it's been instrumental to the company.
Well, that's a really personal thing too, though, man. Giving somebody control of your money, right? Like
Yeah.
is what you're doing there. They're paying bills, they're receiving money, they're making sure the accounts are where they need to be and payroll and all the things. I mean,
Well,
it's
like wouldn't be, I've had theft. So, I've had a few employees steal from me. So it comes with me being a little protective over the money, which
yeah,
is crucial. So yeah, but yeah, I don't have any worries about Jackson. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
So, if one of our listeners is getting ready to start up a business, blue collar business, if there's one piece of advice that you'd give them about starting it, what would it be?
Put your head down and work, be available for your customers, go above and beyond. Don't undercut yourself. Know your value right off the bat. You might not be able to compete with the big guys right away, but don't I cut myself pretty hard in the beginning with thinking I needed to underbid every single customer or every single competitor. And so once you figure out what your value is, what part of that, it doesn't have to be the work you do, but it could be your customer service. That's where our value is.
Mhm.
Um, I would say fail. You got to have screw ups to grow. And so just figure out what you did wrong and then learn from it. So, I mean, I have screw ups almost every month, so it's, and then roll with the punches, shit's always going to happen. Just, yeah. And then find family time. So
Yeah.
just
Hey,
keep moving forward,
so now I got to ask, what do you think the biggest screw up you ever had was?
not paying my taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, in 2014, um, we hadn't paid any of our sales taxes yet. And so I found a bookkeeping company for the first time. So went there, dropped off the stuff. 3 weeks later, I had an audit from the Department of Revenue. And so then we got, I owed them like $16,000. And then they fined me $19,000 on top of the 16. So that was a big learning curve for me. But you know what? Learn the hard way. So you do it once and that's
Yeah, you
it.
don't make that mistake again,
No,
do you?
nope. But pay your taxes. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, they'll
They
come get
aren't forgiving.
No, no, they don't like to negotiate too much on that.
Nope, they don't.
DT, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man, and talking to our
Yeah.
listeners. If people are looking to learn more about West Coast Renewables, how do they find you guys?
We got our website, wcrenewables.com. All of our social media accounts is either West Coast or WC. Um, but yeah, hit us up. I'll be more than happy to talk with anybody that's trying to get into an industry. So
Yeah, I
I'll,
appreciate that.
I'll be available.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Tyler for doing all the work to make it happen.
Yep.
And thanks everybody for listening. Of course, you can find us on Spotify, Rumble, Apple, YouTube, our website, bluecollarstartup.io. And don't if you're listening on any of the channels that I listed, please hit like or subscribe. Leave us a review. We're currently at the number 6 spots in the country right now for top 35 blue collar podcasts. Trying to get to number 5 and then obviously number 1, right? DT, we gotta be
Always
number 1.
gotta be.
Love it. Thanks, everybody.
And that wraps up another episode of Blue Collar Startup. A big thank you to our sponsors, 5 Towers Media, Daigle Cleaning Systems, Daigle Fire Solutions, The Michaels Group, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Peoplease, and Catamount Consulting for making this podcast possible. And thank you for tuning in. If you learned something or felt inspired, connect with us on our website at bluecollarstartup.io or email us at hardhat.bcsu@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions and topic ideas. Help us spread the word by sharing the show and following us on social media for updates. Until next time, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and keep hustling like your future depends on it.